No ID is meant for a sane audience. No ID may contain liberty-oriented content. Pinko discretion is advised. Now, here's No ID with Paul Banducci and Scott Moskowitz.
Word. Welcome back to No ID, a hyperlocal revolution because every region has a mainstream apparatus. What propagandizes? IR Scott.
And I'm Paul. Hello, Internet. It's good to be with you guys this afternoon. It's snowing. It's beautiful up here. Is it snowing down there with you, Scott? I'm up here in the Clark Fork Castle.
It's probably heavier up where you are. It's like kind of misting down here. The snow has been awfully light this year. And this is no exception. I mean, it's like 37 degrees. It's not really sticking. You know, that global warming, it's here.
Yep, that's the reason. That's the reason everything is bad, global warming. So give us your money, and we can fix the weather.
If the government had more money and power, the weather would be fixed. I don't know why this is so complicated.
Yeah, just like they fixed homelessness and inflation and everything else that they actually caused. But yes.
Also, I'm such a Luddite, man. Global warming, it's global free. I mean, wait a minute. No, climate change. Sorry. I knew there was a different phrase that the latest one.
Yes,
climate emergency.
Because in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, and the 90s, each what do they call those? Not projection or prediction. Each one was it was too specific, and none of them came true. So now it's just a broad term.
We are recording this show on January 6th. And so
J6.
This is the 8th that this show is dropping, but we're here recording on Tuesday on the 6th, which of course I feel like we need, what we need to do is a moment of silence, because this is obviously the anniversary of the dark day for democracy in 2021, the unprecedented extremist violence, seditious assault, insurrection, riot, breach, attack, coup on the capital of democracy. And so I really do want to do a moment of silence for all of the victims. So if you'll join me, Paul, and just let's be quiet for a moment. Okay, moving on. Let's get to the stories of this week in the
Our Fed boys loved that. Somewhere out there, your Fed boy and my Fed boy really they loved that.
Let's do a couple of follow-ups before we get into this week's stories. Let's do a couple of follow-ups from previous week's shows. We closed the New Year's Eve show with the Idaho potato drop and all of the, if you recall, Idaho is like the gem state. There was all those different ball and object dropping stories. And so there was actually, I don't know if you saw.
For one child, last night's potato drop in Boise ended up with a trip to the hospital. Shortly after midnight during the New Year's fireworks show at the Idaho State Capitol, a child was struck by broken glass. According to Boise police, the glass came from windows that broke during the 20-minute pyrotechnic show. Shortly after midnight, the child was taken to a hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Right now, there's still no word on the child's current condition or how many windows were damaged.
This poor little girl, she was just kind of standing next to a window that just happened to, I guess, blow out. It's not clear to me exactly how it happened, but this poor girl got a bunch of glass to the face. So she's going to have a recovery here as her eye and whatever heals up. She had a surgery. And so I pulled this because this was covered on Idaho NPR. And I want you to hear their breathless editorializing with regard to the fireworks themselves.
Eyewitness accounts and a video of a horrific New Year's Eve blast in downtown Boise have filled social media for 5 days now. That's while a child recovers from injuries suffered from broken glass, shattered from a fireworks blast at the stroke of midnight.
Okay, it goes on, but I just want to reflect on that for a moment. It was horrific. Like, that's the same word I would use to describe the Las Vegas shooting. I mean, if we're using that kind of language, what's left?
It's hyperbolic, and it sells. Hyperbolic language sells. That's the mainstream narrative for you. Everything is a 10. I do feel bad. Poor little girl. Poor girl. Watch the potato drop, and you get glass in the face. That is not what you have on your 2026 bingo card.
Extremely unlucky.
On the other hand, I'm impressed with the fireworks show. That is so powerful. It blows out commercial glass pane windows.
Isn't that amazing?
On Main Street.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? That's some pretty impressive sound compression. Just boom.
In the words of NPR, it was a horrific blast at the stroke of midnight.
Shattered from a fireworks blast at the stroke of midnight. The Idaho potato drop, which includes pyrotechnics, has been going on since 2013, but this is not the first time that
and now it will never happen again.
Right. That's what this whole thing is driving at. Here we go.
The first time that potato drop organizers have come under scrutiny. This was in 2022.
I think we collectively feel like we have said, hey, please don't do this again a lot of times.
This is Boise Director of Community Engagement, Maria Wigg. In previous years, city officials had chastised organizers for not following proper COVID precautions.
So in other words,
that's what we're upset about.
They didn't have all of the citizens in the street masked up.
If they had worn their masks, Scott, do you think it would have protected them against flying glass?
Maybe in the mouth area. I mean, I've heard that the blue surgical cloth is made of Kevlar, isn't it?
Not having proper ADA accommodations and issues regarding fireworks.
So they're upset about not masking up, not being wheelchair accessible. Now here's the problem, though. Now they have a legit thing they're going to campaign on, and I guarantee you, if they do it again next year, it will be severely neutered because now a child has been harmed.
Oh, somebody, please, they got the children.
This was in 2022.
Fireworks, the zone fencing was not set up as presented or recommended. I think the state fire marshal is going to have a lot to say about that moving forward. I mean, there's a lot of really precious stuff right around that Capitol Mall area, and we think all would want to make sure that we're protecting that as well as the human beings that are participating in the event as much as humanly possible.
Back in 2022, organizers said they had
taken the high road. I mean, that's perfect. That's so well crafted. Like, we just care about safety. That's why we don't want this anymore.
Yes, the human beings. We're just looking out for human beings that we care so very much about. Of course, mask up so we can't tell one of you from the other. But definitely, we just care so much about the human beings.
The event as much as humanly possible.
We don't care about you individually. We just care about you as a voting glob.
As a collective. Yes. Didn't she say it earlier in the clip too? She was like, collective. As a collective.
The warmth of collectivism.
In 2022, organizers said they had addressed the outstanding issues laid out by the city's Special Events Committee. As for this year, Boise Fire and Police continue their investigation. Meanwhile, the family of the child injured in the blast said she had to undergo nearly 3 hours of surgery, and they have set up a GoFundMe account to assist with specialized support and therapy.
Well, we wish her a speedy recovery. That really does suck.
Yeah, that is a bummer for them and for her and her family. It's a bummer for the potato drop because it's coming to an end, or it's changing vastly next year because this is a lawsuit. So what do you think the odds are that somebody gets sued here?
I think it's well over 100%.
What a time to be alive.
Okay, we have one more follow-up.
This week, Shoshone County plans to keep the sheriff's and driver's license offices closed this week. Right now, they are doing repairs and planning on opening up
I feel good
week,
about that.
January 12th. At this time, police are still not sure what the motive was for the shooting. We do know the 3 people who were hurt in the shooting are all recovering well.
There you go. So
Yay.
The only person who actually sustained the real injuries was the shooter.
I am happy to hear that. And the closing of the sheriff's office. Yeah, I don't mind that either.
You know who might never heal up is all of the people in the Panhandle who are apparently suffering with a world-ending cause of the sniffles.
The U.S. is now in the midst of a particularly bad flu season, and flu cases are especially bad in North Idaho. The Panhandle Health District says flu cases are up 81% from.
Yep. So they use the percentage, so you know what that means.
Yeah, they did.
6 people with the flu, and there were only 4 at this time last year. So it's a 9,000 million % increase.
The Panhandle Health District says flu case.
And that the Panhandle Health District, is that the same district that tried to force small businesses to close, but not big box stores, and tried to force mask everybody indefinitely? That same Panhandle Health District?
Yeah, it's also the district that is responsible for getting involved in businesses where they don't belong. And they're actually the district responsible, or the organization responsible, for shutting down a business locally here that my daughter was working for because they didn't like the plumbing. So they shut a business down and put, 1 owner out of business and 6 people out of work.
Well, who cares? Because they can't afford to pay $25 an hour for minimum wage anyway. So close them up.
Close them up. Yep.
The Panhandle Health District says flu cases are up 81% from previous years. This is a look at the CDC's map of the flu season across the country. You can see Idaho is at a very high level of flu activity. Health experts say it is still not too late to get a flu shot. Many pharmacies and grocery stores across the inland Northwest do free or low-cost flu shots. So places like Safeway, Walgreens, and CVS.
Oh, you mean the places that didn't close during the, quote, lockdown? Got it. Let me write that down.
Places that didn't close. This actually goes puts me on a rabbit trail real fast where when people rail against corporations and they act as if corporations and the government are different entities, they're different things. And a lot of them on the right and the left, but particularly the left, always opine that if only the government was bigger or if only there were more regulations, and they're so upset because corporations control the government. But the way to fix this is to give the government more power. And then you look at governments and you look at corporations and governments act, behave, and run the same way. They're structured the same way. The only difference is that the government, also known as the apparatus of the state, simply claims a monopoly on force. So like Pepsi and Coca-Cola can't put a gun to my head and force me to buy their products, but they can lobby for the government to put a gun to my head and force me to buy their products. And they operate the same way. So corporate wants you to identify the differences in the picture. It's the same picture.
Just in case you were confused about how this all works.
This weather report brought to you by Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the Royal Wedding is brought to you by Pfizer.
And now a CBS Sports Update brought to you by Pfizer.
Meet the Press Data Download brought to you by Pfizer.
This portion of CBS This Morning sponsored by Pfizer.
On how to find the hidden sugars in the American family diet. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer.
We've got a shot for that.
CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
Good
Morning America is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer.
Anderson
Health
Cooper
Watch.
360.
Health Watch.
Brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah, obviously that can I could play a 10-minute clip of all that stuff. And so this ties in because
it hurts.
It's amazing. The only part that's really amazing is that just like people just don't connect the dots on this stuff. But okay, this ties into which
is mind blowing. The dots aren't even that far apart.
That's what I keep trying to say.
They're right next to each other.
So this ties into a Coeur d'Alene Press editorial that you sent me, which was was it an editorial or was it like a statement from the editorial board with regard to trustworthiness?
It was. Well, it was in the editorial section, so I would consider it an editorial. I mean, the press wrote it about themselves. I guess I didn't realize there was a difference between the two. I sort of just lumped them together. Whatever the press says as the press is an editorial in my book, but does it really matter if it's an editorial versus just a PSA?
No, I guess it doesn't. It's a distinction without a difference. I mean,
the important thing is that we believe what they say, whether it's an editorial or a press release.
Right. Now, do you have that article up, or should I pull it up?
I do. No, I have it up.
What's the headline?
Yeah. The press will keep earning your trust. And effectively, the press here is patting themselves on the back for being so awesome and assuring us that we can trust them. Is trust us. We're the press. You can trust us. I'll read a little bit of it. It says, the press would like to say a few words to its readers and advertisers. Thank you for your support. We wouldn't be here without you. So they start off, all nice and fluffy. The next paragraph is, the media is often accused of focusing on the negative, zeroing in on the sensational. If it bleeds, it leads, is the old adage. Not so here at the press. We take pride in reporting the news. Some say we have too much fluff, too much happy news. We say we would like to have more of it. Aw, oh press. You're so fluffy and huggable. Yes, we report on the hard news because that is our gerb. We have had more than our fair share of heartbreaking events to write about, but we try to do so with grace. They talk about what they cover, which is city council meetings, planning commission, school boards. Yes, they do. They do cover all those things, but the way they cover all those things is oh so telling. Oh, all right. Here was my favorite statement of all of it. While many local media companies face significant challenges, the press stands as a beacon of strength and progress. Our unwavering dedication to our readers and community empowers us not only to overcome obstacles, whatever obstacles I guess that means, I don't know, obstacles, but also to set new standards of excellence. We are proud to be at the forefront, proving that local content delivered to your doorstep and available online remains vital and cherished. Yeah, so beacon of strength and progress. That is communist leftward leaning propaganda speak 101. Beacon of strength and progress.
Isn't
what
this
talking about here?
Is this going to be like
your version of progress is definitely different than my version of progress.
Is this going to be like the public art thing where they're like, "Oh, we didn't notice the hammer and sickle. That wasn't intentional."
Strength and progress, comrade.
What comes to your mind's eye when it's like all I see is the sort of red poster with the citizen gazing skyward, and the rising sun in the background. I mean, isn't that the imagery that sort of language conjures, or is that just us?
Oh, 100%. It's like I said, it's communist speak 101. This is what should be playing when you read it. A beacon of strength and progress. We are proud to be at the forefront. We embrace the exciting opportunities. We are confident that our passion and commitment will inspire and uplift our community.
I was just auditorily embraced by the warmth of collectivism.
And I, out here in the Clark Fork Castle, am freezing my butt off with the frigidity of rugged individualism. But I have warm tea, so we're doing good.
It's not all over your keyboard?
No, that was my smoothie.
Oh. Right before we clicked the live button, Paul decided to do a flying elbow drop onto his banana strawberry smoothie, and it just went all over the laptop and presumably the walls and the floor and everything else.
Yeah, I lost my mind for a minute, and I envisioned my smoothie as the press, and I just jumped off of the wrestling square ropes and right onto it.
It's too bad. If a little bit of the splatter had gone onto a canvas, we could have got Glafiro Rosales to sell it to the Knoedler Gallery for $4 million.
Dude, I will Andrew Pollock the shit out of my laptop if I can sell it for $1 million.
Is that Jackson's retarded younger brother?
Or Jackson, yeah. yeah, so Jackson. Whatever. I'm not the art guy. You're the weirdo. You're the art guy. You're from California. Whatever. Don't you talk to me about art,
Tommy. So
I know what real art is.
Here's a national version of exactly what it seems like the press from. It's like across the board, the entire mainstream media apparatus got a memo from Central to do this credibility check, because at some part of the reptiles know that they have lost a lot of credibility, and so they're sort of running this interference stuff where they're like, we're actually fantastic and trustworthy, you can totally trust us and stuff. This is a little long, stick with it because it's just amazing. Here is Tony DeCopel, who is the, I guess, new anchor of the CBS Evening News. Here is his monologue from the first broadcast that he's doing there in the anchor chair from a few days ago.
A lot has changed since the first person sat in this chair, but for me, the biggest difference is people do not trust us like they used to. And it's not just us, it's all of legacy media. Mm-hmm. And I get it. I get it because I've been hearing about it from just about everybody for more than 20 years as I've traveled America on this assignment or that.
So he's saying that his entire time in the mainstream media apparatus, people have been talking his ear off everywhere he goes about how nobody believes anything they say the entire time. So now on year 21,
we have sort of a problem here.
On year 21, He's now reassuring us.
My mom's neighbors in West Virginia, my own neighbors in New York City, thousands and thousands of conversations in between. Sometimes people want to talk to me about our coverage of NAFTA or the Iraq War. Other times it's all about Hillary Clinton's emails or Russiagate. Or more recently, COVID.
Did you hear the way he said that? Some other times it's about Hillary Clinton's emails. Like, that's crazy talk. Like, the people who bring that up are crazy. Did you get that? Did you hear that in his voice?
Once in a while, they come out from behind their tinfoil to ask me about Hillary Clinton's emails.
Sometimes people want to talk to me about our coverage of NAFTA or the Iraq War. Other times it's all about Hillary Clinton's emails or Russiagate.
You get that? That's all you need to know about that guy to know the kind of news you're going to get from that guy. Sometimes people want to talk to me about reasonable subjects like NAFTA and the Iraq War, which I support. Other people want to talk about these things that I don't agree with and that don't exist. Look away.
Or more recently, COVID lockdowns, Hunter Biden's laptop, or the president's fitness for office. The point is, on too many stories, the press has missed the story because we've taken into account the perspective of advocates and not the average American. Or we put too much weight in the analysis of academics or elites and not enough on you. And I know this because at certain points, I have been you. I have felt this way too.
At certain points, I have been you. Once in a while, dear reader, dear listener, I have deigned to get down into the mud and be you for a day. And I got to say, it's awful. You're all terrible.
There was one time when I was flying in between New York and Miami where I did a layover in Busted Whistle, South Carolina. And for that 45 minutes, I was you.
I felt like what I was seeing and hearing on the news didn't reflect what I was seeing and hearing in my own life, and that the most urgent questions simply weren't being asked. So here's my promise to you today and every time you see me in this chair.
Edge of my seat.
You come first. Not
how are you spelling that, buddy?
You come first. Not advertisers, not politicians, not corporate interests.
Yeah.
Not advertisers.
Wait, please tell me you have a clip of the end of this being like sponsored by Pfizer.
By Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the royal wedding is
That would
brought
be
to you
amazing.
by Pfizer.
Were they kidding?
That would be just the best.
Hold on.
Me in this chair. You come first. Not advertisers, not politicians, not corporate interests.
So in other words, for the past 20 years of this guy's tenure in the mainstream media, and then obviously way before that as well, who has come first are
not advertisers, not politicians, not corporate interests.
Corporate interests. How is there any other way to interpret what he's saying? That's been the case, but it won't be any longer.
Well, no, this is good. Hold on. I'm stopping you real fast. I apologize. I'm going to cross-reference the Coeur d'Alene Press's statement where they talk about who owns them. Right after that paragraph I read with the commie music going, which was just so fantastic, their next paragraph is, it starts with ownership. We're not part of a corporate chain. The Hagedorn family has long owned the press, and it remains in their ownership to this day. Their deep belief in local journalism, read, having their own mouthpiece, and the local business community, meaning, read, only their business and the people they like, is unmatched. So that's who owns the press here, is the biggest, most profitable tourism entity in the entire 3-county, 5-county area. And it sure is nice to have your own mouthpiece. It's amazing that works. They also mention, where to go, readership is rising. Sure, that's because of you and me and people like us who are reading them just for the lulz.
Yes.
Advertising is strong. Editorial coverage is second to none. Anyways,
and yes, that does include the corporate owners of CBS. I report for you.
The corporate owners at Hagedorn. We care about you. We don't know anything about you, and we're better than you and have more money than you could possibly have in 100 lifetimes, and we own everything. But it starts with you, dear reader.
By the way, make sure you mask up, double mask up.
Pandering man is pandering.
That we cannot tell, we don't want to be able to tell one of you from the other, even though obviously we really care about you. But just make sure that there's no distinguishing characteristics about you.
I report.
There's just a little bit more of this, but it's too good not to play.
I report for you.
It is.
Which means I tell you what I know, when I know it, and how I know it. And when I get it wrong, I'll tell you that too. It also means I'm going to talk to everybody and hold everyone in public life to the very same standard. After all, I became a journalist to talk to people. I love talking to people about what works in this country, what doesn't, and not only what should change, but the good ideas that should never change. I think telling the truth is one of them. I'm Tony DeCopel, the anchor of the CBS Evening News. Hold me to it.
That makes you think of that. That's a scene from Office Space.
What would you say you do here?
He goes, I'm good with the people. I took this job to talk to people because I love talking to people. Look, companies are not good at dealing with the customer. That's my job.
It's so good. And what's again amazing is that I guess there's a significant contingent of people / boomers who are still watching that talking head and just nodding along. Oh, Tony DeCopel, boy, he really cares.
Oh, it definitely is a generation. There is a massive distinction in the generations when it comes to media consumption. And that's no secret. You and I, we've known that for years. People who've tracked that have known that for years. And the gap has been widening. Every year it widens further. The boomer basically the silent generation, and then the boomers underneath them, both consume what would be considered mainstream media or conventional media at a much, much, much higher rate than Gen X or millennials. The drop off really happens with millennials. Now I don't have the percentages, but it's very, very significant. Gen X is kind of stuck in the middle, which makes sense because they're the generation that has been able to experience, for better or for worse, the entire start to finish, well, maybe not finish, but the beginning of going from analog to digital. So they're kind of in the middle. Whereas millennials, we just caught the tail end of analog and then the full brunt of digital. So we consume our media mainly through alternate channels, YouTube, of course, being the big one, but a lot of different ways. Social media is, and I'm that guy too. Social media is how I get the vast majority of my news, and it's more reliable than anything you hear from Fox or CNN or anything like that. Even with the press, so it's fascinating listening to the press say that their readership is up. Well, if you read the press, you read it for basically one of three reasons. Number one is you're like Scott and I read the press basically to drum up the mainstream narrative on how they report things going on in our community, because I know what's going on, not 100%, but well enough. So it's interesting to see how the press reports it. The second set of readers is mainly older folks, boomers and silent generation, who've just always consumed media that way. And the third set are the in-betweeners who agree with the press and are part of the downtown cartel as it stands. Anyways, the NIR folks and the people who stand to gain from maintaining their grip on power in the panhandle.
The reptiles.
And they all stick together. The reptiles, yes. Anyways, that was a bit of a rabbit trail, but
that's okay. As I'm sure you've gathered by now, this is episode number 10, by the way, double digits, baby.
Woo.
The whole point of this show, it's all rabbit trails. It's nothing but rabbit trails.
I suppose that's true.
Here is another quick follow-up. I don't know if it's really a follow-up, but it was the, all the rage, and to some extent it still is going on, the Nick Shirley video, the Alto viral explosion, and how it is, I guess, some in Idaho are feeling compelled to respond to it and apply it locally.
Two Idaho lawmakers are asking the State Department of Health and Welfare now to temporarily stop payments from a $14 million child care appropriation. Senator Brian Lenny and Representative Josh Tanner say the recent federal action in Minnesota have revealed vulnerabilities in child care subsidy programs in Idaho. IDHW says they want staff to review these subsidies.
So it's just now occurring to them that there's vulnerabilities in these programs.
Welcome to the party, pal. Hey, better late than never. And I'm sure there is some, even in Idaho. If they look, they'll find some things. So they're going to meet some pretty stiff resistance. There's too many hands in the cookie jar. That's where everywhere you dig for this kind of stuff, a la Doge. And that's why Doge lasted all of really, truly lasted all of about 4 months, and then officially called it quits, I think, in August. Everybody has their hand in the cookie jar. So it's really, really hard to clean up fraud, clean up corruption. When everybody gets a piece, or at least enough people get a piece, you run into too much resistance. And it's enshrined in the legal system as well. The judges and the lawyers are all happy to let things be the way they are too. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out in Idaho. But I'm good for them for trying.
Let's do one more.
What'd you say earlier? Before we started this recording, you said how interesting the phrase "it's the thought that counts" is.
Yes.
Well, Here you are, Scott. It's the thought that counts.
Yes, right before we clicked live, we were talking about that particular phrase and how it's one of the dumber aphorisms, as people just sort of say it. But when is it ever true? You know, like, oh, I thought about getting you a gift, but I didn't. Oh, it's the thought that counts. Like, no, it's actually, you just didn't do anything. And I was even saying, arguably, it's worse than you just not remembering at all, because if you had the thought and then you didn't actually execute any behavior, so you just didn't do it, even though you did think about it.
Yeah. It's a phrase worth spending some time on.
Here is one more before we take a mid-show breather to describe our model on this program, and it's going to help us pay for our rising utility costs, hopefully.
Idaho utility rates for electric and gas are going up. Troy Uppy reports on the rate hikes, which have taken effect with the new year.
In December's final days, the Idaho Public Utilities Commission approved rate increases. Gas rates will rise about 6%, about $2.50 a month more for the average residential customer. Power rates will rise more than 7%, about $12 a month more for average users. But that's just over half of what the utility wanted, citing rising operational and infrastructure costs. The commission in news releases announcing the changes say it balanced the needs for utilities to cover costs and burdensome increases for customers.
It's funny that you bring this up, Scott, because I just got my Avista bill today.
Oh, yay.
And in it is the rate increase stuff and also Idaho property tax replacement information on House Bill 329 and franchise fees and a number of different things. It's quite the packet. Out here, I don't know how it is out there in Post Falls, because each district is a little different. We're Avista. You guys are probably Avista as well. Most of the area is Avista.
Yeah, Avista.
And as far as utility companies go, Avista actually is one of the better ones. I know it's hard to believe, and I'm not shilling for Avista. This podcast is not sponsored by Avista.
Brought to you by Avista.
Avista.
Yes, Avista.
Pay your power bill, or else.
Do you have a family that doesn't
They're not
like
as bad.
freezing to death? Call Avista.
Dude, that's where I love having the wood stove. They cannot freeze me out. We do not have central air of any kind. No heat, no AC, no nothing. It's wood stove heated. So as long as I have wood to burn, they cannot freeze me out. I'm very grateful for that. But what galls me about my Avista bill, the base charge, and that's before you consume anything, is $20. And it makes up a solid 30% of my Avista bill. Our Avista bill is not big because we only use electricity. Everything else is propane or wood stove or whatever else. Now, we don't save money in the end. Between the wood I got to buy and then the split and stack, and between the propane tank that's 500 gallons that I got to fill at least once a year, and et cetera, et cetera. My utility bills on average are about average for everybody. We're about in between $250 and $300 a month when you average it out. I just am not as dependent on the grid, which is super, super nice. So my Avista bill is only the electricity that we use, which is only lights and what it takes to power, like the TV, my laptop, the dishwasher, et cetera, things that just require some electricity. Anyways, this month, $68.49. And so I'm sharing my Avista bill with everybody. I guess maybe that's weird. $20 of that $68.49 is the basic charge just to be an account. Not for consuming anything, just to exist as an account.
Yeah, to put it in a podcast audio context, the noise floor on the Avista bills is very high.
Yes, it is. It galls me. It's on principle. It galls me because it's like if I consume it, charge me for it. Charging me just to exist. What are you, the government?
Money.
There's another. It's all relative thing too, because for all of the political refugee set who came from places like, where Pacific Gas and Electric is providing the utilities, Avista seems like a bargain.
Yeah, and it is a better company than most utility companies. Go anywhere in the country or just step outside this region. Hell, even in this region, I know a lot of folks who have a Kootenai Electric co-op are not really fond of that company at all. Now, I don't have experience with them personally, but I've heard stories, So you step outside the region. Yeah, talk to anybody in California, for example. Avista's not as bad I will give them this. They are responsive and they fix shit fast. They do. Like, we live in an area out here where we lose power probably a dozen times a year or more. Just, windstorms and snow, or somebody plows through a power line, or in December, we lost power a couple times because the floods knocked stuff out, so on and so forth. And Vista, man, they're on it. They all are always on it. I think we never go more than a day or two without power. And even then, it's oftentimes not even close to that. So again, not sponsored by Avista.
Not yet. Okay, I do want to take our mid-show breather here. But I actually have to.
Speaking of not being sponsored by Avista,
yeah,
what's our model, Scott?
Well, since we need help paying for utilities, let's be honest about it. This show runs on the value for value model. That means that if you find our program valuable, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, we ask that you contribute back to the show with value of your own, because we do not and will never have sponsors. I don't know if Pfizer or Avista wants to cut us a big enough check. We're listening. In the meantime, the show is a value for value.
I never want to pay another Vista bill again.
Well, it's going to be $20, but then there's nothing after that.
Sold.
So that means that means contributing back with value. Your time, your talent, or your treasure are all equally and much appreciated. And time and talent could be telling people about the show, spreading the word. That is a huge time value add. And if you like what you hear, that is the best way to help grow the show, is to just tell people that
tell
you
your
enjoy
friends.
it and send
tell
them
your
our
mom.
way.
Yeah, tell your grandma, tell your mom, tell your friends.
Maybe especially grandma and mom, because they're still like reading and taking seriously Tony DeCopel and the Coeur d'Alene Press.
Yes, let us help them. It'll be like group therapy.
We will guide them ever so gently toward the light.
Speak for yourself.
And Boots on the Ground reports, which I do have one to share in the second half of show. That means that if you have inside knowledge on anything that we either have discussed or you assume we will discuss or you think is worthy of discussing, please send us an email and let us know what you've got to contribute. And you can do all that, by the way, at noidshow.com. The contact widget there at the bottom of the webpage is how to send us messages of any sort. There are also links by which you can contribute financially to the show. That would be the treasure portion, and that is all extremely appreciated. And I have a actual paper note and physical check that was sent by mail. Speaking of boomers, this is from, he didn't actually say if he wanted to be anonymous or not, so I'm just going to say this is from E, and E sent in $100 via a check. The envelope also included a note, and he wrote in cursive, he said, "I need a de-douching. Keep 'em coming, gents, from E." De-douching is no agenda show lingo, because they refer lovingly to those who listen but do not contribute as douchebags. And when you do make your first contribution, you get de-douched. And as this is E's first contribution, he needs a de-douching. So officially, I don't have a sound clip for it, unlike No Agenda, but consider yourself de-douched, E, man. We really appreciate it a lot.
Thank you very much, E. And we are happy to have provided you metaphorical feminine care products to make you feel better.
NoIDShow.com, NoIDShow.com.
All right, No ID
We do really
Show.
appreciate your support. And the note, actually, I think that's super cool. The note is super cool. Handwritten note in cursive. Yeah, that's fantastic. Way to go, E. I don't know who you are, but I like you. We should be friends. Oh, also, side story. Did you know that as of this week in Denmark, they have officially stopped doing mail service?
I did not know that.
The Danish mail service. Yeah, they hung it up. After over 400 years in operation.
Wow.
No more official mail service from at least a government mail service. Yeah, just happened. I just learned about it today. They actually collected all of the red public mailboxes that were all over the country, collected them all, and they sold them to collectors, $300 American each, and they all sold in like a day. They also say you can turn in your stamps and they will refund you for your stamps, but most people aren't doing it because, again, collector's items. And now a private company will take over the delivery of letters, mail, and that sort of thing. And it will cost about $3.50 per, because that's the only way to turn a profit. But the Danish mail service will now switch to carrying packages. They will carry packages because the package market still exists.
Of course.
The letter market does not.
Wow.
Because, well, The United States will probably be the last country on planet Earth to get rid of the Postal Service because, again, there's too many hands in that pie. Even though the Postal Service, what does it have now? $60 billion, I think, in debt. It's like $60 billion in the hole. It's either 6 or 60. It's huge. I'm pretty sure it's 60.
Let me write hold on. How much money does the U.S. Postal Service lose annually? Fiscal year 2025, which ended September 30, net loss $9 billion.
Yeah, and I'd like to apologize. My numbers were off. They're actually in arrears about $150 billion since the early 2000s. That's
yes,
their total debt load.
You mistook the accumulated for the annual.
Yeah. How crazy is that? I was only off by a couple of zeros, don't Postal Service.
Well,
Good
but I know now the upside is that donor E can send us a check and a handwritten note for 35 cents. What a bargain.
Dude, when was the last time you sent a letter? Stamps are like 67 cents, man.
Yeah, well, that tells you the last time I sent a letter, probably somewhere around 2000. But when your estimate began, somewhere around 2005.
35 cents. That's hilarious.
Hey,
See, I actually have.
I remember when
I have
it was
stamps,
29.
and I've had to. I used to have to. I cut physical checks and mail them out and stuff like that for 12 years as a business owner. There were still things you just did physically through the mail.
That is right.
You just did. So, yeah. Stamps are 67 or 68 cents right now, I think.
That is so true. I wonder what percentage of the market of actual physical things being sent through the mail that is not junk mail. Because to your point, when we had with the beer bar, you basically just pay for a lot of your cost of goods with physical checks. Checks go to vendors. That's how it works.
Correct. That was the bulk of my mail. Paying rent, paying vendors, sending checks, things like that. Because I don't do ACH. I don't let nobody get their hands in my account because that's dumb. It's 80 to 85%. I actually have a great video from Reason TV about the privatizing. What we should do is privatize the Postal Service, but I'll send you that. In fact, I'm going to make myself a note right now. Pardon the blank airtime here, but
well, that's okay. While we're okay. Second half of show, first of all, officially. And speaking of our retail hospitality adventures.
Well, vapes and nicotine pouches in Washington just became a lot more expensive.
Now, I know you did. Now, Paul did premium tobacco, which is not the same segment, but I thought the nicotine tax over in Washington, because of there's definitely people in Spokane that are hearing this, and so I thought it was pertinent, and I thought you might have some thoughts on it.
Because of the state's 95% tax on nicotine products that went into effect yesterday.
This is a tax that is hurting both local smoke shops and consumers' wallets. But not everyone is upset about this tax. Madeline Mullins takes us across the state line where businesses say this tax is making them money.
Around noon each day, the parking lot of A1 Smoke Shop fills up with cars. But recently, those cars have started to look different. Many of them have Washington plates.
There's been an increase on customers coming in to get products that are taxed higher.
And that's how it's been for several smoke shops along the state line ever since Washington's tax went into effect.
They don't want to buy over there because it's over twice what we've got for prices anyway.
The 95% nicotine tax has nearly doubled the prices on certain products like vapes and pouches, so they're now taxed at the same rate as cigarettes. Now, customers are debating whether they should buy these items at all or go the extra mile to stock up. Jeff Long made the drive from Liberty Lake.
Yeah, because basically you're going to end up paying double, essentially what you were before. So it's either that or stop doing it, and it's this close.
And many customers have made trips much longer than Jeff's.
Here at the A1 Smoke Shop, they're seeing customers drive from as far as Wenatchee to purchase items here in Idaho because they're that much cheaper.
They're not very happy with Washington State. They enjoy coming in.
None of us
like
are.
The service, and the prices, they help.
But these shops were anticipating this would happen, which is why they've stocked up on product.
And we had a customer yesterday, buy 15 rolls because he was afraid that we were going to raise our prices, and we told him we're not going to. But he said he'll be here every week now to buy his product.
So while these stores have a revolving door, these are sales Washington smoke shops are losing out on. In Idaho,
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, state line. the businesses at State Line, just outside Post Falls, right next to the state line between Washington and Idaho, are printing. They're loving life. It's a great place to be. On every town on the state line between a high tax state and a low tax state, or a high regulation state and a low regulation state, it's heaven on earth for them. They benefit every time. There is a similar story because I did premium tobacco, so premium hand rolled cigars and premium pipe tobacco, and we've got situations like that all over the country. One of the highest profile ones being between Minnesota and Wisconsin. There's a really well known smoke shop on the border that was on the Wisconsin side because the taxes and the regulations were significantly less onerous than on the Minnesota side, just outside Minnesota, St. Paul, the St. Paul, St. Minneapolis area. And they crushed it, man. They printed. They were one of the, most profitable shops in the entire tri-state region because they caught all the business from the other side of Minnesota in a large urban area. And this is just a tale as old as time. It opens up a number of economic and philosophical, not even questions really, but I guess discussions that are self-evident. Number one, when you tax things this way, or when you treat things this way, people are still going to find a way to get it. So whether that's the black market or going to, across state lines to load up or what have you, the market always finds a way, as it should. Number two is, and this is one really bakes the noodle, is that if you tax things to get less of it, so for instance, in this case, it's a nicotine tax because Washington thinks it's a public health issue and we should tax it higher so people do it less. Well, then what is the income tax? What is property tax? You tax you're taxing something to get less of something. Then what's your excuse for income tax, right? You want. So simmer on that for a minute. Number three, just pure economics, is that there's only a level so high you can tax products or goods or services before people will, again, either get them somewhere else or not get them at all. And you will effectively punish your own people and your own businesses. So now Washington will take in less revenue while taxing something at double the rate, which also, again, works for income taxes and property taxes. The higher you tax this stuff, the less of it you get. And then, of course, there's the moral case, which is fuck off, government. Stop telling us what we can and can't do with our bodies and the things we want to consume, and it's not your business, and stop scalping us. The people who always talk about how it would be chaos if there was no government.
Total chaos.
Chaos. Yeah. The gangs are raping us right now. That's what this is. This is the gang known as the state. Just going, hey, that's a nice product over there that you'd like to enjoy. It'd be a shame if it were to cost double.
Now, hold still while we double mask you and inject you with experimental pharma products. And remember, citizen, that this is all for your health. We here at the
all
state
for your health.
Care about thy health.
Every time stuff like this happens, I just think of this.
Whenever I'm about to do something, I think, would an idiot do that?
And then we know the government will do it.
If the answer is yes, I would not do that thing.
Yeah. I got something for you, Scott. I have something for you.
Whoa, the shoe's on the other foot.
Yep.
I don't. Hold on. Let me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put my feet up on my ottoman. I'm gonna lean back in my chair. Go right ahead.
All right, here we go. I even have a name for it. I have a theme song. I have a name. I'll pull up the article. All right, everybody. I want to introduce you to a new segment called Scott's Shots. Scott.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you. I just recently saw an article that says the U.S. is dropping the number of blanks that it recommends for every child to receive.
Oh, please. Too easy.
I'm starting off with an easy one.
Say it again.
The U.S. is dropping the number of blanks it recommends for every child to receive.
I would go with masks, but I always know that that's more. It should be 3 masks. We were definitely wrong about 2. So I am going to go way, way out on a limb and say vaccines.
Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Yes, good job. Yeah, I know. I softballed this one, but it was perfect. So new segment for y'all. It's called Scott's Shots. And I'm going to bring up an article every podcast about COVID stuff because I just love how passionate Scott gets anytime we talk about the COVID stuff, because that was Scott's watershed event was COVID.
It was.
And I mean, I know, Scott, you were leaning, I think, more open-minded towards liberty before that. Of course, I think you were predisposed to it long before that. But as I have gleaned from our friendship and from all of our discussions, it was COVID that really, really opened the door completely, blew the hinges off the door to your understanding and love of liberty and your hatred of the state and what the state will do to you and how and all that entails. So, new segment, and I'm going to focus on COVID stuff every time because I just love the passion that I get out of you. So here's the deal. News bit. This is a national thing, but it affects Idaho too, because, the Panhandle Health District is going to have something to say about this. Kootenai Health will have something to say about this. I'm sure they already are wringing their hands over it and whatnot. The U.S. took the unprecedented, speaking of breathless, step Monday of dropping the number of vaccines it recommends for every child, cutting protection. That's the word they use. Their words, cutting protection against a half dozen diseases. Oh, they are thinking of the children. Cutting protection against a half dozen diseases in a move slammed by the nation's pediatricians. Okay. The ones who get paid to administer vaccines.
Yes. Well, what about the pediatricians who are not on board with that?
Oh, we don't hear about them. No, it doesn't even show up in the article. This is an AP article. So, of course, not a single pediatrician gets asked who doesn't agree with it. But as they like to do in an appeal to authority, because that's one of the mainstream media's favorite things to do is appeal to authority, because they are the authority and they are run and owned and bought by the authority. Dr. Sean O'Leary of the American Academy of Pediatrics said countries should carefully consider vaccine recommendations based on levels of disease in their population and their health systems. Quote, "You can't just copy and paste public health, and that's what they seem to be doing here," said O'Leary. "Literally, children's health and children's lives are at stake," end quote. Which is weird because these are the same people who copy and paste any authoritarian style health recommendation across the board for everybody, regardless of uniqueness or region or race or gender or age. You can't just do a one-size-fits-all solution, said the people who like to apply one-size-fits-all solutions.
Exactly right. Yep.
So I bet you can guess like how this is happening, because they mentioned the Trump administration and Robert Kennedy. So I bet you can kind of connect the dots. I'm going to let you see. I'm going to see if you connect the dots here.
What's the exact question?
Well, their big beef here is what the Trump administration is doing, and Robert Kennedy is involved. Uh-huh. So effectively, it's the Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert Kennedy, telling the CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that now the CDC must recommend only X amount of vaccines and not the 25 that were being recommended. Now it's only down to 11.
Right.
So it says the overhaul is effective immediately, meaning the CDC will now recommend vaccines against 11 diseases. What's no longer broadly recommended is protection against flu, rotavirus, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, some forms of meningitis or RSV. Instead, protections, again, they keep using the word protections, not vaccines, not immunizations, just protections, as if it's like wave your magic wand, whoosh, you're protected. Instead, protections against these diseases are only recommended for certain groups deemed high risk. Wow, what a novel concept, right, Scott? Or if their doctors recommend them in what's called shared decision making. Like this to me seems like this legitimately is a good idea. We should only issue these if you are high risk, or if your doctors and the parents decide in a shared decision-making process to administer them.
We really don't like it when you make decisions, which is why we run articles all the time. That's like the danger of doing your own research and how much misinformation there is out there. Like defer to expert opinion. And then when you ask them, how do I know which experts to listen to?
My favorite are the articles. There's one or two I've seen like with Vanity Fair. And I think it was actually in Vanity Fair or Vogue, whereas doing your own research is a right-wing behavior.
Right. It's MAGA.
It's fantastic. It turns out not listening to the so-called experts is a fascist position to take.
And we're anti-fascist.
So the best part is, I mean, it really is the best part too, is it says the Trump administration officials said the overhaul, which is something they've been trying to do for a while. It doesn't mean that families will not be able to access these other vaccines. They will not, like, people will not lose access to these vaccines. So you can still get them. You can still request them. It is, and insurance will continue to pay for them. So not only do you still get to have them if you want them, but you don't have to pay out of pocket. Well, depending on your insurance plan. All it does is actually give you the choice. But medical experts have said the move increases confusion for parents and could increase preventable diseases.
Yes,
Yeah.
and because we're so our whittle heads are so confused, they need the agencies to continue to tell us what to do. Yeah. Also, you'll notice
It's the bigotry of low expectations.
Exactly. Thank you, Thomas Sowell. Then you'll notice too the word access. That's mainstream newspeak for you aren't being forced to do it. So the second if mandates from the state go away, that means that low income or whoever the hell they're fill in the blank lose access. I lose it.
But they don't even.
I can't just go out and get it. Well, no, you can, but it's just not being forced on everybody else.
It's perfect newspeak.
Yep.
When in their own article, they do have to, I'll give them credit for this. They do mention that access is not lost or revoked.
Oh, well, that's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, no, look, that's what I'm saying. Administration officials said the overhaul, a move long sought by HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Says it will not result in families who want the vaccines losing access to them, and said insurance will continue to pay. Of course, the way it's framed in this article is that it's the Trump administration saying this. It's not the writers of the article saying
MAGA.
it. So that's still, that still matters. But anyways, the long and the short of it is HHS going on said that its comparison to 20 peer nations found that the U.S. is an outlier in both the number of vaccines that it administers to kids and the number of doses it recommends to children. So these leftists who always like to look at all of these other developed countries, like, they always like to point to Europe and whatnot, when comparing economic systems, all of a sudden it's not so great when it comes to vaccines or what we put in our food or what we don't put in our food, or what a lot of them did for COVID. You'll notice if you go back to the COVID stuff, and I know you know this, there were a number of countries that did very little in the way of COVID preventions, and their death rates per capita were significantly less than countries that did more to quote unquote protect their populations.
While you're right, and that your whole assessment about blowing the door off the hinges for me is totally right. And I know the point you're making is about the commies and their love of comparing everything to Western Europe until it doesn't suit them any longer. I know that's the point you're making. However, I just want to point out that I don't ever engage in the notion of like, oh, the death rates per capita in this place, or like, well, masks work, masks don't work. I never engage in that framing, because it implies that, oh, well, if the death rates per capita were X, then Y would have made sense. If masks work, then therefore they could be mandated. So you see what I'm saying? I don't actually care about any of that. I don't care if the death rate's 1,000%, you're guaranteed to die. I don't care if masks are proved beyond a shadow of a doubt to, quote, work, whatever that even means. It doesn't make any difference. I don't care. You don't have the right to tell me to cover my face. Have a nice day.
100% agree. But
I know that's not the point you were
100% agree
making,
with you,
but I just
Scott.
want
That's
to
a good
point
way.
that out. Yep.
Correct. No, and I'm glad you mentioned it though. I'm very glad you mentioned it, because if we do get dragged into the weeds on that topic, then we de facto are accepting the premise that some form of control was acceptable, and all it did then was depend on how bad the virus was or could have been.
Correct.
So, but it is, I only ever bring it up, and folks like Tom Woods do a great job of bringing it up. And I think it's worth knowing, just because it's one of the pillars of argumentation for the control freaks who wanted to implement it all.
Yep.
And so when they make these claims like, oh, it could have been so much worse or whatever they want to say, you can point to even a state by state comparison or a country by country comparison, and you can discuss the data all day long. And those of us who are pro-liberty still come out on top on that discussion as well.
Right, totally.
There is no real correlation between how heavy-handed or not heavy-handed a country or a state was and the deaths and those who contracted it. So it's an argument that doesn't even make any sense, but sometimes it's just good to know the data if it does come up. But I agree with you. It's a great point.
And to the extent that the data even is relevant, because all the numbers are phony baloney and the PCR tests were phony baloney, and the guy gets in the motorcycle accident, but he has one cell worth of whatever in his pinky nail and he's there for a cover. I mean, there was so much bull crap around it that it doesn't.
Oh, they actually, I'll never forget the headline about the guy who got bit by a shark, bled out, died, and they counted it as a COVID death because he had COVID. I kid you not.
I don't remember that one. A shark.
Yeah, that was a thing. It came up.
So what I'm assuming
there was a lot of that.
He wasn't like my fat friend in the Spokane River, masked up while swimming. Because if he was, speaking of protection,
I guess the moral of the story here is that if he had worn 2 or 3 masks while in the ocean, he would have been protected from that COVID shark.
All right. I do want to do, there's a couple more, but we're running a little long. So I think I'm going to save a couple of the big ones, which is the Coeur d'Alene Press ran an editorial ahead of our friend Dan Gookin assuming the mayoral seat, a editorial essentially, the advocating, I suppose, their support of him. So I wanted to break that down. We also have the Post Falls City Council new seat and a little bit of controversy regarding the appointment process. Those I want to save for next week because I think we'll know who the new person appointed was in Post Falls, and B, the Gookin thing is an evergreen because he's about to assume the mayoral seat, and that's not the Coeur d'Alene Press's advocacy for him is not going to change. So I think we can save those until next week. Let's close out this week with the coroner story, because I have a boots on the ground report for it. And so I wanted to bring everyone up to speed on what's happening. Sort of a strange unfolding of events.
The partnership that helps Kootenai County with death investigations has suddenly come to an end. The Spokane County Medical Examiner abruptly terminated its contract with the Kootenai County Coroner.
For 30 years, Kootenai County would send people who died over to Spokane County when it needed autopsies done. Autopsies that it can't do itself because it doesn't have a forensic pathologist.
Each year, the Spokane County Medical Examiner conducts around 70 autopsies for Kootenai County. Sometimes those people were victims of a crime, and an autopsy helps in the investigation. It's a decades-long partnership that appears to have ended with an email.
Really puts our public safety in Kootenai County in a small little situation where we have to find a transition very quickly in order to not create delays on the public safety side.
Emails that we obtained show that on December 15th, the Spokane County Medical Examiner emailed the Kootenai County Coroner stating that one of the deputy coroners has been working closely with a disgruntled former employee of the Spokane County Medical Examiner's office to destabilize our office operations. And because of that, she would be terminating the partnership. That took Coroner Dr.
Yeah, I don't know. Internal politics of some sort. It is a sort of, this whole thing was pretty confusing.
Yeah, it's definitely shrouded in a cloud of mystery as far as like what precisely does that mean? Like hey, one of your employees is cavorting with one of our former employees to make life difficult for us over here. Well, how does that even work?
I wonder, this is one of those things that wouldn't surprise me if it came out later that there was some sort of love triangle or something weird interpersonally was happening. I have no idea, obviously, but it sounds like nobody else does either.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. My imagination runs rampant, of course. It's like, well, so what were they doing? Were they like breaking in at night over there and like moving the bodies, switching the bodies around from one containment to the different one? And they're like, and here we have Mr. Smith. It's like, no, that's actually, Mr. Bob, somebody over there. Oh,
hey, who put cucumbers over the eyes of this corpse?
and coins on the eyes of this one.
That took Coroner Dr. Duke Johnson by surprise.
But what a name, by the way, Duke Johnson.
Yeah, I imagine him carrying a 6-shooter on his hip as he's doing his duties, going about the morgue with a 6-shooter on his hip. That's what I imagine, and a cowboy hat.
would imagine both hips. And we did bring up Duke Nukem, I believe, on one of the first few episodes we did.
This is KTIT, K-Tit, playing the best tunes in town.
I'm imagining that's what Duke Johnson sounds like.
That took coroner Dr. Duke Johnson by surprise. He denied those claims and wrote back, "There is no way that we are actively working against your office and have never done so."
With 15 days notice, it gives us very little opportunity to transition to another medical examiner office.
And now Kootenai County is in the process of finding a place to conduct these autopsies, and it's prompted the commissioners to issue emergency funds.
We already have a facility where the coroner's office operates out of, and so we are transitioning a room that really already has the infrastructure in place to convert that into an autopsy lab.
Just in case you were not placing the voice of, that's Commissioner Bruce Matari. So this came from one of the meetings. I pulled.
Yeah, they had a meeting about it with the commissioners. That I know.
Okay, well, there was more than one because I pulled some. I pulled up one where Dr. Johnson was on the phone, but Commissioner Matari was not there. So there must have been more than one meeting where they discussed this. But anyway, let's finish this clip.
An autopsy lab.
The county commissioners say it had discussed opening up its own autopsy lab for several years. This sudden termination has rushed that process, but there is no timeline on when this new facility will be ready. Spokane County confirmed the terminated contract, but says the commissioners and the medical examiner will meet about this tomorrow.
So the boots on the ground report actually comes from a retired medical examiner from Western Washington. I'm going to keep his name anonymous, but he retired, I believe, 3 years ago, of 35 plus years as the county medical examiner in Whatcom, over like where Bellingham is. So I'll read his message in a moment. The article from the Coeur d'Alene Press says, until recently, Kootenai County contracted with the Spokane County Medical Examiner's Office for these services, sending about 70 cases to Spokane each year at a cost of about $2,000 per autopsy. Then that's not a quote. That's just the Coeur d'Alene Press's summary of it. And now if I pull up the message from our Dr. Boots on the Ground, hold on a second.
So I know Duke Johnson, since he's been in that position, has been leaning on the Kootenai County commissioners and pretty much anybody who will listen to set up our own, well, I say ours, I guess, because I live in the area, but set up I'm not even sure, a lab, I guess. I'm sure there's another term for it, but not a coroner's office. What would be the term for that? But basically set up their own operation here in Kootenai County to be able to handle this sort of thing, to be able to handle forensic autopsies. He's been, I think, in the position for 2.5, 3 years, and he's been leaning hard on doing that because I think he and a lot of other people see the need. As Kootenai County grows and as Spokane County grows, Spokane County can't handle as much of other people's or other counties' cases as they used to because they're busy dealing with their own. And as Kootenai County grows, it would have to send more over to Spokane, so you can have the double whammy of growth on both sides, making it harder to deal with. So eventually, something's got to give, and you probably got to get something sorted out on our end, which I think they are now going to try to do. It's just on overdrive, and it has to happen very quickly, and it will not be cheap.
Well, that's where the boots on the ground report comes in, because it was a retired medical examiner. He said, I'm not familiar with the exact details of this situation, but $2,000 per autopsy is very far below the actual cost of performing the service. As always, follow the money.
That did seem cheap.
So I wrote him back and I said, can you give me a ballpark of what the actual cost is? And he said at least $5,000, especially if it includes investigation, transportation, holding, etc. So I'm not sure if that means that it's very different, like less than half for those type of services in Spokane versus West Washington, or if it means that the Coeur d'Alene Press is inaccurately reporting that number. But in any case, it's confusing to even someone who worked in this, especially to someone who worked in this profession.
Well, it could be a couple of different things. Number one, things just cost more where your source lives. So, I mean, everything costs more over there by a factor of like 10. So that probably is a part of it. Also, it's a 30-year relationship with Spokane County. So sometimes with those kinds of relationships, they last a long time. You get a bit of a sweetheart deal. I think a lot of the growth is what's at play here, as Spokane County didn't have enough casework, happy to take on more and be able to pay for that with a sweetheart deal with Kootenai County. Kootenai County's getting a sweetheart deal with Spokane County because $2,000 did seem inexpensive. Setting up a coroner's office and then staffing it and maintaining it in Kootenai County will not be inexpensive. It'll turn into quite the line item. But if Spokane County won't take your cadavers and your next closest place is Missoula, which also said they wouldn't, because I did see that. They also reached out to Missoula, and there was one other out of state, and both said no, they couldn't handle it because the casework. Ada County has a coroner's office where they can do forensic autopsies, but Ada County is Boise. That's like 9-hour drive, so that's not really feasible. So it does make sense. I mean, spending the money sucks, but it does make sense that Kootenai County would have its own given the growth and where it's located geographically. So I think this was a long time coming. Spokane County just unceremoniously pushed it along a lot faster because now there's no choice.
I wonder if Spokane or Kootenai has considered simply signing a deal with Pfizer.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
There's a vaccine for that.
We'll continue to follow this one because it'll be interesting to see what comes out, who was having an affair with who was, putting whoopee cushions on seats over there, or if maybe somebody, the door was ajar and there's the bucket full of water on the top of the door, so whoever walks in, we'll figure out what shenanigans were taking place over there at the in between the Kootenai and Spokane coroners. But I'm sure it'll be entertaining.
I'll be curious if there is more that comes out, because the Spokane County Coroner's Office gal, I think it was a gal.
Yeah, it is.
Jing. What's her name?
I think it was Singh, something thereabouts.
His last name's Singh.
Veena. Dr. Veena Singh.
Veena Singh. So her response to Duke Johnson's question was which was basically, what's going on? And she said, I can't say anymore until I've gone before the Spokane County Board of Commissioners for advice on how to handle this. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if A, they actually do have that meeting over there, and B, what comes of it. It's just as possible that this one just sort of goes away quietly into the night and Duke Johnson and company over here scramble to just make things work. We will see.
We will indeed. And that means that you can hopefully see next week. There is an episode of our homies who also do a North Idaho podcast. We've brought them up before. The guys from North Idaho Experience. They do a much different format than we do, but they're also local observers of the Panhandle. And I did a guest spot on their show back in December, and that episode dropped today. So check out the North Idaho Experience if you want to hear a different version of local coverage. But we'll continue ours, of course, as always, next week. And until then, from Post Falls, I'm Scott.
And I'm Paul. Taxation is theft.
The unprecedented extremist violence, seditious assault, insurrection, riot, breach, attack, coup on the capital of democracy.